I did have a little bit of extra clay there that I did trim away, because if you do something like that, you don't want a sharp angle on the underside that corresponds to the top, because that right there becomes a very weak spot if you have it too sharp there. So if you look, I did just a very simple curve there on the bottom, so it still gives support at that weakest point. But if I've done, sharp inside and out, and if you have it too flat, between the two, sharp edge and too flat, it may do this for you, which is what I don't want to happen. So just leaving just a little bit of clay there for support. And that one came out really nice.
How long did you wait before you
cut it? Mm-hmm. I don't like it to be real tacky. I want to be able to, that it still has a little, it's still soft enough that the wire comes through very easily. That's what I don't need to do. But I don't want it so firm that I can't cut it.
Right.
So it's just, it could be waiting a couple hours, but I do like it to already pull up a little bit.
Okay.
Because one thing that I found with the shapes that I do, you can just leave it right here, is that if I cut it off, if you cut it off immediately, it's going to me, it just wants to stick right back down.
Yeah.
Because it's just wet to wet. So that's one reason I like to me, this is what I do. You may find what works for you. But I like it to stiffen up a little bit so when I cut it, it doesn't immediately seal itself back. Because with this, when I cut it, it will eventually still pull up. And by allowing it to set up a little bit, it pulls up this way without the whole thing going up like this, and you end up with it being bowed in the middle. And that's what I try not to do. But when you're trimming it, because there's always little marks from the cutting wire, is that, where was I going? My mind just went blank on me.
When you're trimming it, that's what you said.
Okay, yes. Thank you. My mind just, okay. When I'm trimming this, the foam bat, this barely, this hung over the foam bat. So I'm going to just very carefully, it's actually shrunk enough, perfect. So this is the way it fit on the foam bat. It actually hang over a little bit. But if it has curved up here on the top, I will take my time before I even trim it. And actually, with it going around, use like a wooden rib or something like that to push it back down, because I don't want to try to trim it like this, because if you're thinking, in your head, I need to trim it flat, to be, if you do that, you're going to end up with nothing in the middle. So if you can already work it down a little bit, or even having it like this on a firm surface, putting another bat to push it back down before you even do any trimming. Because I had a little bit of mark from the cutting mark, because sometimes when you're pulling through, you kind of stop, to get it going. So you end up with one thing I wanted to show you too, because that's one thing I forgot to do when I was showing trimming, is that if you do end up with a piece that you cut off and you actually cut more than you thought, if you're trimming a piece or taking a piece off and you forget to do that little bit of undercut where your wire will go underneath really nicely, when you go to use the cutting wire, sometimes that cutting wire will actually go up, and you end up cutting what would have been part of your foot. So if that happens, you want to make sure, hopefully, that you had enough thickness that you can work with. Because one thing I meant to do, Jen, I had to help Jen on one of her plates, is that there's a way of, if you have enough, this is the thing, is if you have enough thickness that you can work with your clay to give you a level bottom. And if you've ever watched somebody work on a lathe, they get themselves very nice and stable and work a little bit at a time on the edge. So I'm not going to turn this off, but I don't want to turn this on because I don't want to turn. But basically what I do is I brace myself very strong with my elbows in tight, and I hold this tight, and I start on the edge. And I will literally, what I want to do is try to keep it going until my cutting wire here gets nice and level. So it's basically nibbling the way that you would a piece of wood if you were working on the lathe. So you just, work a little bit, and it could just be right here at the edge that you've ended up, having it deeper here, so you've lost clay, and it's higher here. So what you're doing is you're going along, you're getting those high points out, and you just keep working that. And it was fun last night with my hand to try to figure out how to hold this without doing anything with this. So I was basically holding it like this, very strong. And if you have a nice sharp edge, it's tipped like this, just kind of keep working until you get to a nice level spot. And then you can move a little bit. Or you can just go a little bit, go back and forth, trying to hit the high point here. And again, you have...
initially, you're just contacting the high point.
Yes,
and
I mean...
letting it shave down and shave
exactly.
down.
So
it's level when it starts engaging the entire surface.
Exactly. And you can also figure out, because with this right here, that I knew that I was, I think the actual foot came out to here when I threw it, because I had support. So I knew immediately that I was going to take that off. So I worked that first. So I didn't have to do so much work out here where it was going to be gone anyway. So let me go back a step, kind of try to establish the outside shape.
You always do that first.
I'd always do that first and then go to the bottom. So if there was a bowl, a cup, whatever, and something like that happened, establish your outside, because that may get rid of a lot of what you needed to lose anyway. So establish that outside and then work. And again, just figure out how you want to hold this, but it seems to work with me holding it with my left hand and giving pressure. Literally pressure, because your tool is going to want to do this. And so you just gently working it down until you get a nice level, and then you can work this in. And again, the thing is though, you have to have enough thickness, because if you don't, just start again. But this is a good tool to learn, just to take it off a little bit at a time. And then you can go back with the wider tool. And I like a smaller, small tip like this. A suggestion was those trim tools that usually come with the kits, like the one Jen has there. You can use, especially if it's a larger piece, you can use that tip. Somebody says, well, why don't you use the wide part? Well, the wide part is just going to want to skim over the top. So if you use, a tip like this, or even the rounded tip on that will even work. But again, it's just eating it away. And I said, if you've ever watched wood turning, that's what they do. They just eat a little bit away until it gets nice and smooth. So that's just a little something that I meant to show you when you were doing plates. And I apologize that I should have done that, but I didn't. So I just wanted to show you.
And did you say that was 4 pounds?
This is 6.
6. Okay.
This size is 6, because the dinner plates that y'all should have been working on should have been 4.
Okay.
3.5 to 4 pounds. So this right here was a 6-pounder. And that's why I was able to, that's why I wanted to work with a 14-inch bat, because, this right here, I probably brought it all the way out to the edge and raised it up like this. So the other one I should have brought it, that I did as a sample, that was the one with the beautiful curve. I've got it over my other space that I can go get it, because I also trimmed it. But this right here, because I'm not trimming a foot, an actual foot, that gives me a little bit of extra thickness. And you can see how far I came in. So this has already shrunk some. So that means it was a little bit wider. And again, this part was lower. And again, just part of drying. And if you want this lower for finish, let it set up a little bit and then go back and push it back down, because sometimes you need to do that. And I just liked the nice depth that I got out of this one.
Glaze is going to look great.
Yeah, I can actually got 2 pieces in the gallery right now that I did that. I did this with this clay. Actually, I've got one piece of C850, And this is a B-Mix here with Grog, so you can see the difference in color. So I can bring those two in, and I think I've got them actually in the gallery right now. Okay, so